afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are having a great day so far. So today, inside this KitchenAid washer, on the top rack, we seem to have some rust damage here. Now, normally, you could either choose to repair this, or you could replace the rack with an identical model here. So, in today's video, we are going to be replacing the top rack on this KitchenAid washer with this replacement one here. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, as we walk around the top rack, on the inside of the rack, we could see that there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts, which need to be removed to disengage the rack from the track here. As you're removing the bolts from each side, it'll be wise to have something supporting the rack so that it doesn't just fall into the washer. While removing that screw, I would advise to hold on to that white piece with something like a pair of pliers, otherwise it will just spin on its threads. After you have removed all those screws, the rack should come out. Now, before we install the top rack, we need to install some pieces from the old rack onto it first. And the first pieces that we are going to transfer over are these tracks. Now, on these tracks, there are these plastic tabs that are hooked in with these pieces of plastic. And if you place just enough pressure on them, you should be able to lift them up so that they could clear the housing. Make sure not to put too much force on these small plastic tabs. They are quite flimsy and they could break very easily. This is what the disengaged tab looks like. And you can easily remove this tab by twisting it to the right and placing it over to the side. After you have removed the second tab, now we need to remove this metal track from this housing. You can use the appropriate Torx or flathead screwdriver to remove these screws. And after both screws have been removed, if you have this mechanism on your rack, you can simply press down on this blue lever to move this plastic housing forward and pop this back plate off. With the back plate popped off, it would be a good idea to go ahead and clean that piece as it will be going on the new rack. And we can remove the remaining housing by simply sliding it off. And we can remove the remainder of this housing by placing pressure on these two plastic locking tabs to disengage the metal sliding plate from the plastic housing so that it slides right off. After that, all that remains is this metal track, which you can simply twist over to the side and remove from the rest of the rack. Once we have removed all those pieces from the rack, we can give these pieces a good clean and remove the track from the other side. Now that all these pieces from the track have been removed and cleaned, we can go ahead and remove this part as well. We'll start with this by removing this Phillips head screw on the top. After that screw has been removed, we can go ahead and lift up on this, which will allow it to release, moving these parts gently over to the side, and then moving these blades upwards so that it disengages from this piece here. Going on a bit further, to remove this housing, there are these two plastic tabs on each side, which you will need to squeeze. And with the thick flathead screwdriver, you can press downwards lightly on the housing to disengage this mechanism from the rack. I would advise you to be very careful with this, as this plastic is fragile. Once you have removed this piece from the rack, we can go ahead and place it to the side and focus on removing this piece. Removing this follows a similar procedure in which you will place pressure on this plastic tab first, and then lightly press the edges inwards to disengage it from one side before removing it from the other. Now that this piece has been removed from the rack, we will go ahead and install it on the new rack. Installation is the reverse of the removal, in which we will align this piece underneath, hook it into place, and doing the same for the other side as well, pulling it up so that it locks into place. We will now do the same with this piece, pressing it underneath and pulling it up on both sides so that it locks into place. We will go ahead and install this white ring into the blade, and then place the blade in its original orientation, returning the Phillips head screw to its original position, making sure not to over tighten it. After the blade has been installed, now we can move on to installing the tracks. The installation of the channels is the reverse of removal. We will first begin by installing these pieces again by moving them in parallel to these rungs, then moving them over to the side like so, moving the channel into its proper position, and then pressing downward on the tabs, locking them into place. We can slide this back plate into position, making sure that the locking tabs are in place. And then we can reinsert the blue plastic lever and clip this plastic cover back on. We can go ahead and reinstall these two screws. And now that this is fully assembled, we can do the same to the other side. Now that both tracks have been installed, there is one more optional step. If you prefer to use the original handle from your previous rack, there are two small tabs, one on the right and one on the left. And if you gently pry underneath in this channel, then the handle should pop right off. After doing so, you can reinstall this onto the new rack if you choose. However, I'm going to do without it for now. Whether you decide to use the original handle or not, our final step would be reinstalling the new rack into the washer. When reinstalling the new rack, you will want to pull these sliding cylinders all the way to the front on both sides so that you can reinstall this either at an angle or while it is mounted and supported on top of something else. And after all 4 screws have been reinstalled, the new rack is complete. So once again, thank you all for watching. Hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave any comments below. And if you would like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. But as always, I hope this video was helpful. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.